Becca, you're still such an unthoughtful and worthless wife as always. This was a trip that my son and I were looking forward to. You, who have no part in this, can go home right away. So my MIL starts nagging me the moment my husband leaves the table. We were on an overseas trip that my husband asked me to plan. Well, if she goes that far, it's inevitable. I'll go home. What happens to the two of them after that is none of my concern. My name is Becca, a married woman working for a multinational corporation. Since my job is easy to manage in terms of schedule, I've been working mostly remotely since getting married, so I spend more time at home. My husband, Jack, is the type who overvalues himself and always wants to look good. He is a big spender and has never contributed a penny to our household. I didn't realize this while we were dating, but after we got married and started living together, his true nature gradually emerged. His mother seems to enjoy bragging about her son. I've heard of mothers who dote on their sons. I was prepared for that to some extent and was willing to tolerate it, but she is obstinate and strong-willed. She doesn't listen to other people's opinions. She even completely ignores her husband's opinions. Because she believes that her son is the best, she doesn't like me at all. Every time we meet, she always has some snide remark. She seems to particularly dislike the fact that I live comfortably on my son's salary alone. She keeps nagging me, saying, "You're still young, you should work outside." I've explained many times that I continue to work after marriage and that I have a job that I can do from home, but in her mind, working from home is just a part-time job. She assumes that I'm just pretending to work by always looking at my computer. She presumes that I'm probably playing games. Apparently, I'm a worthless wife who doesn't do housework properly and only plays computer games, despite being a stay-at-home wife. My husband, of course, understands my work style, but he has never explained it to his mother. Even when it's said right in front of him, he turns a blind eye. Even when I ask him to explain it well, he says he wants us women to handle it well and completely throws it at me. He even says he doesn't want to get involved in troubles. Once, when I persistently asked him to do something similar, he threw a completed divorce paper at me. It irked me to be treated like that, and I thought about divorcing him, but I heard that getting a divorce is more difficult than getting married. It would be a problem if it were more difficult than the current situation, so I ended up giving in to my husband's argument. I understood that my husband prioritizes his mother in everything. It's frustrating, but I feel like I need to find a way to deal with her while skillfully deflecting her. I didn't agree to divorce because of this change in my feelings, but it seems that my husband thinks I'm head over heels for him and didn't want to break up. His pompous attitude is getting worse day by day. It's cute when a child tries to act grown up, but when an adult does it, it's rather a turn-off. I've learned to ignore his pompous words and act as if I haven't seen his actions. There is another reason why I didn't divorce him. Due to my husband's job, we live quite a distance from my in-laws. We meet once a year, or at most twice a year. I thought I could tolerate that much. While the world was making a fuss about having 9 consecutive days off if you take a vacation on weekdays, both my husband and I were working. In my case, American holidays don't matter much because I adjust my schedule according to international circumstances. As for my husband, it's just that he wasn't taking 9 consecutive days off according to the calendar. When he returned home after his first day back at work, he announced, "Let's go on an overseas trip." When I asked him what he was talking about, he said that his colleagues had taken a vacation and made it a 9-day holiday to go on an overseas trip, and he was quite proud of it, which made him incredibly annoyed and regretful. I was dumbfounded by his childishness, but I haven't been on a trip this year, so I suggested a domestic trip. The reason being, my husband has no experience with overseas trips, so if we were to go overseas, he would have to apply for a passport. There won't be a problem if you're with me. You're fluent in multiple languages. I studied abroad when I was a student and have been on many overseas trips when I was single. In addition to English, I can hold a conversation in Spanish and bit of Chinese if necessary. When my mother back home got hooked on Korean dramas, I studied Korean with her. However, I didn't get much opportunity to use it, so I'm not very confident. Sure, compared to my husband, I might be good at languages, but that doesn't mean that applying for passports will be finished in a snap. I tried to persuade him to go abroad during the summer or winter, but he wouldn't listen at all. On the contrary, despite having no experience, he decided on the country to visit, took leave without permission, and told me to make it work on this schedule. It's not a tour. Why should I have to act with strangers? He furthermore declared that English is a universal language, and that we should have no problem. If it's just the two of us, I thought, maybe it's fine, but before I knew it, he said, "That's right, I promised to take Mom along. I'll count on you for that too." You're MIL too? Even for me, taking care of two inexperienced people abroad is too much. You should show filial piety once in a while. Maybe you can gain some favor by doing so. Aren't I a kind and good husband? This is for your own good, Becca. You should be grateful. He said things that made it seem like he was doing me a favor, but arguing against it started to seem foolish. I decided to quietly make reservations as my husband instructed, and I came up with another good idea. Starting from applying for my MIL and husband's passports, booking flights, and hotel reservations, it's a lot of trouble, but in order to implement my idea, I patiently fulfilled all my husband's wishes and created a perfect schedule. On the day of the overseas trip, my MIL, who knows nothing of my troubles, cheerfully and childishly exclaimed, "Just as I expected from my son. It's a long journey overseas. The seats are business class, aren't they?" Knowing my husband, he probably said something like, "I'll take you there." He probably bragged about himself, saying things like, "I made the reservations," and "I planned the schedule." The truth is, I did everything and my husband did nothing. They did nothing and left all the procedures to me. What's more, the two of them, who have hardly any experience with airports, moved around on their own while I was doing the procedures, walked around aimlessly even when it was boarding time, and I had a hard time finding them. The airport staff even asked, "Would you like us to make a call announcement? It's Becca's fault for not telling us the boarding gate." It was such a fuss, but they showed no remorse, saying, "And this wife was planning to have fun by herself, leaving us behind." During the flight, they behaved relatively quietly, but it was honestly annoying and embarrassing every time they called a flight attendant. Several hours later, we arrived in the destination country. After finishing immigration procedures and such, just when I thought I could finally head straight to the hotel and take a break, my husband turned pale and said, "I'm going to the bathroom," and thrust his luggage at me and ran away. I don't understand why only my husband got sick when we ate the same thing. He had been grinning and calling his favorite flight attendant. I guess this is his divine punishment, serves him right. Becca, you really are an inconsiderate DIL. How long are you planning to stay here? Huh? This trip, my son planned it for me. It's a mother-son trip without the need for a DIL. You're a money grubber who doesn't even work. How brazen of you to think you can enjoy this trip for free. Go home now. Are you sure? Whether it's good or bad, I can't have fun when you're here. I see, that's not good. All right then, I'll go home now. I handed my husband's luggage back to my MIL, only taking my carry-on, and turned my back to her. My MIL, who received my husband's luggage, was stunned and had a very vacant expression on her face. It's not possible for her to react like that when she told me to go home. I was doing my best to hold back my laughter. My husband seemed to have been going in and out of the bathroom several times, so we didn't cross paths. Luckily, I was able to get a ticket back to America, so I became a passenger on the plane headed there. Originally, I had planned to find a chance to return home alone. If we had a good relationship, I wouldn't mind being taken around as a tour guide, but not with that mother and son. It's only stressful for me, and I gain nothing. I can't stop grinning just thinking about what the two of them, who can't speak anything but English, will do when they are left behind. If they think a little, they should be able to manage with the translation function of their smartphone app, but I can't imagine my husband, who likes to show off and inflate his own importance, doing something like that. When I safely returned back, after making a few detours, I headed straight to the luxury hotel where my parents were waiting. My husband Jack told me to show respect for my parents, so I treated them to a luxury trip in upstate New York. They were to travel there leisurely on a popular scenic route, enjoying the scenery and meals along the way. I managed to meet up with them earlier than planned, much to their surprise. When I briefly explained the situation, they were taken aback. They were astounded that I had agreed to such a request from Jack. My phone was bombarded with calls and messages from Jack, all of which I ignored. I switched off my phone and enjoyed the stay to my heart's content. When I returned home after parting with my parents, I received a call from the embassy. According to their explanation, Jack had returned from the restroom to find his mother, my MIL, sitting alone. Despite being surprised that I was not there, he was livid. He tried to contact me but couldn't get through, so he decided to make his way to the hotel by himself. However, not knowing where to go, he was visibly flustered when a kind person spoke to him in broken English. He was led away after being told that they knew the place and would take him there, only to be robbed of all his money, passport, and valuables. My MIL was even stripped of her jewelry. When he was found standing on the street looking destitute, the police picked him up and referred him to the embassy for help. That's how he was able to contact me. The embassy official asked me to come and pick him up. He couldn't withdraw money because his wallet, which contained his bank cards, had been stolen. However, I asked back why I, a stranger, had to do that. I explained that I was already divorced from the man who was there. The truth was, I had kept the divorce papers he had thrown at me some time ago. Back then, I decided not to proceed with the divorce as I had heard it would be a lot of trouble, but this time, I had reached my limit. After filling in the divorce papers, I headed to the hotel right after landing back in the States. To my surprise, the divorce was accepted without any fuss. I already had a new place lined up and the contract had been signed while making the travel arrangements. I didn't want to use the furniture I had shared with Jack, it made my skin crawl. In my new place, I planned to buy everything new, so I packed for both the trip and the move at the same time. All I need to bring to the new place is my work tools and my favorite clothes. I could easily have everything else sent by courier at a specified date and time. The embassy staff did not ask anything more from me, and the conversation ended. Later, it seemed my former MIL had pleaded with my former FIL, and with his help, my ex-husband Jack and ex-MIL were able to return to the States. However, Jack, who had blown his top, contacted me. "You left me and divorced me without my knowledge? Abandoned?" "No, I just obeyed your mother's instructions to leave. If you have any complaints, talk to your mom. And please consider the business class flight I arranged for you on your return as my farewell gift." I also reminded him that he was the one who had first brought up the divorce papers. I only filed the divorce papers he had prepared, fulfilling his wish for a divorce. Do you think such sophistry will work? How much more do you want to embarrass me? Embarrassed? How so? If you want to feel embarrassed, I have a better story. Want to hear it? What is it? Well, did you know you're a regular at an adult entertainment club? You're pretty invested in a favorite girl there, aren't you? Rather than contributing money to the household, you were heavily splurging on her. But you ended up in debt when her demands escalated, right? I had an investigation agency look into a debt collection letter addressed to Jack that had been delivered to our house. Although Jack was a good spender, his obsessive behavior seemed to be a turn-off. His favorite girl's true feelings were that she thought he would eventually stop coming if she kept asking for more money and expensive gifts. I wonder what Jack felt when he heard that. That's quite an embarrassing story, isn't it? If you make any more fuss or contact me again, I'll spill the beans to your company. Got it. Being disliked by the girl he was infatuated with would be an unbearable humiliation for Jack, considering his personality. If this became known, it would be a great embarrassment. Jack, who until now had been aggressive, just said, "Got it," in a feeble voice and ended the call. A few days later, my ex-FIL contacted me. He told me he had also divorced his wife, my ex-MIL. I thought it was unnecessary as we were no longer related, but it seemed he contacted me to expose ex-MIL's true nature as we both had been treated poorly by her. My former FIL, suspicious of his wife's behavior, investigated while she was out and discovered that his retirement savings had been depleted. The money was apparently spent on beauty treatments and cosmetic procedures. As I'm not familiar with such things, I was totally unaware. When asked for a woman's perspective, I was stumped because I hadn't noticed either. I guess seeing someone only once a year makes changes more noticeable, but I truly hadn't picked up on anything. I even asked my former FIL, "Are you sure it's for beauty treatments?" She seems to have sunk quite a bit into it, but there's no visible change. Perhaps there were slight changes that only my former MIL could notice. It felt like throwing money down the drain. Naturally, my former MIL, who was kicked out penniless, turned to her son, Jack. However, Jack, the backbone of the family, is up to his eyeballs in debt. After his divorce from me, he even lost his apartment for failing to pay the rent. Now he and his mother seem to be living in a drafty, run-down apartment. Yet his mother has no intention of working and won't quit her beauty treatments. On top of repaying his debts, the burden of his mother's beauty expenses is weighing heavily on Jack, who I hear is working around the clock. It seems the vanity of wanting to present a larger-than-life image even in the face of a declining living standard doesn't change. If they're content with this situation, I won't say another word. But I hear through the grapevine that the quality of the beauty treatments has gone down and she's aged terribly. As for me, I cherish the present moment, when I can relax and improve my work without anyone dictating to me. It made me think again about living within my means. Mix some medication into Sophia's meals. Ethan remained silent. The medication is in the largest drawer of your study desk. Crush it into a fine powder so it's undetectable, and mix it into Sophia's meals. My husband Liam commanded his son Ethan in a demanding tone. Start today. But we've already finished dinner today. Ethan's voice was on the verge of tears. Then start with breakfast tomorrow, got it? But Ethan's voice trailed off as he hunched his back. Can't you follow your dad's orders? If you don't comply, I'll take away your cell phone and kick you out of the house. Are you okay with becoming homeless? Liam barked these words at Ethan, seemingly ending the call. He's ordering Ethan to mix medication into my meals. I felt my body shaking with fear and anger. My busy life was suddenly interrupted by Liam's entrance. But behind his sweet words hid a terrifying truth. I can't let such a man roam free. Knowing Liam's true nature, I decided to expose him dramatically and deliver justice. With my resolve set, I followed Liam out of the house after he went to work. My name is Sophia, and I am 50 years old. I married once when I was 30 but divorced 3 years later. I had no children. Since then, I've focused solely on my work. With many years of service, I now hold a responsible position. Last year, I bought an apartment with the money I'd saved over the years. I furnished it to my liking, creating my ideal space. Surrounded by my favorite things and engaged in a fulfilling job, I was living quite contentedly. However, in the midst of my busy life, I occasionally felt a sense of loneliness. I wondered if I would grow old alone. That's when I met a man. His name was Liam. He was 10 years my junior, at 40. Liam was a contact from one of my work clients. After several meetings, Liam asked me out to dinner. He was very forward and embarrassingly lavish in his praise of me. "You're competent, composed, and precisely my ideal woman, Sophia." Even though I knew it was flattery, my heart, long distant from romance, fluttered. Liam's sweet words seemed to fill the emptiness within me. Perhaps I wanted to be praised as a woman more than being recognized for my work. Even after learning about my divorce, Liam continued his advances. Roses, surprise dinners, Liam expressed his love in many ways. Eventually, we started dating. After a while, Liam confided in me. "Actually, I've been divorced too. And I have a son in high school." "A son?" I was surprised. I had no idea Liam had a child. "Ours is a household without a mother. I was afraid you might dislike me if I told you," Liam said with an awkward look. He had been raising Ethan alone, struggling all this time. "Since my divorce was due to my ex-wife's infidelity, Ethan and I have been desperately getting by. I do my best with household chores, but without a mother, I think Ethan feels lonely," Liam said, looking down. His words moved me. Far from disliking him, my affection for him only grew. Our relationship continued unchanged from there. Eventually, Liam formally proposed, and I accepted. The idea of suddenly becoming a mom was daunting. But I didn't want to let go of this connection I had found with Liam. I met Ethan for the first time. He was a quiet, earnest boy. Ethan was reserved, and our conversation didn't flow easily. Still, I was determined. If I was going to marry Liam, I would face Ethan as his mom with all my might. After the marriage, Liam and Ethan moved into my apartment, marking the start of our new life together. Originally, Liam and Ethan lived in a rented apartment. "I'd like for us to live together in your apartment," Liam suggested, and I agreed. My apartment, bought after years of saving, was too large for just me, with unused rooms that would be perfect for a family. Initially, Liam helped with the household chores. However, over time, things changed. Liam stopped doing any housework altogether. Meanwhile, Ethan actively took on cooking, cleaning, and laundry. "Ethan, let me do it today. You have schoolwork and other things, right?" I would say, trying to be considerate. But Liam, unconcerned by our dynamics, would sit on the living room sofa, legs on the table, absorbed in his mobile phone. "Liam, that table is my favorite. Could you please take your feet off?" I asked. Silently, he complied, but his attention remained fixed on his phone. I took care of the laundry piling up and cleaned the room. But Liam didn't lift a finger to help. "Hey, if you're not busy, could you do the dishes?" I ventured to ask Liam, who had been sitting all this while. He made a displeased face. "I'm tired today." "I'm tired from work too," I retorted. Reluctantly, Liam got up, hastily finished the dishes, and retreated to the toilet with his mobile phone. "Before we were married, I fight with the household chores every day," Liam claimed. But now, he does nothing. All the household tasks are left to Ethan and I. Perhaps Liam had always left the housework to Ethan, even before marrying me. Ethan, a high schooler, is skilled in cooking and cleaning, almost like a housewife. It seems Liam had been treating Ethan more like a housekeeper than a son. My distrust towards Liam grew day by day. And just like that, 6 months passed into our marriage. Around that time, Liam's return home became increasingly late. I also have late work days, but I never come home after the date changes. However, Liam would sometimes return around 2 a.m. This was never the case before. I spoke to Liam when he came home late. Tired from work? Is it that busy? Yeah. Work commitments are tough, he said before quickly heading to take a shower. I'll go to bed first then. I said this and went to the bedroom. After that, I couldn't quite fall asleep. I waited for Liam, but he never came. Trying not to make any noise, I quietly went to the living room. There, Liam was sitting on the sofa in the dim room, looking at his mobile phone. He occasionally smiled while looking at the screen and typed something. He might be messaging someone. Liam. I decided to speak up. Startled, Liam pocketed his phone. What? Don't scare me like that. Liam said this in an annoyed tone. I was waiting for you, and you never came, so I got worried. I said, and Liam sighed heavily and stood up. He went to the bedroom without a word. Good night, he said and quickly lay in bed, turning his back to me and starting to sleep. Good night. Watching Liam's back, I thought. I married Liam because I felt lonely being alone, but why do I still feel so alone now? Liam, who praised and approached me when we met and during our courtship, has become cold as if he's a different person. I understand that attitudes can change after marriage. Still, Liam seems to have no interest in me. Even though we haven't been married long, Liam hardly tries to talk to me. He comes home late and is always absorbed in his mobile phone. Then one day, I'll be going on a business trip next week. A business trip? For how many nights? 2 nights, 3 days. It was the first time Liam mentioned going on a business trip. Though he always came home late, hearing about an overnight trip made me anxious. Take care, have a good trip. On the morning of the trip, as I saw him off, Liam nodded lightly and left the house. Maybe it was the anxiety, or perhaps it was the exhaustion from work, but I felt dizzy that morning. After seeing off Liam, the dizziness persisted, but I managed to prepare and head to work. Coming home from work that night, Ethan had prepared dinner. It was Wednesday. Wednesday was usually a day for late work due to overtime, but I came home early today because I wasn't feeling well. Ethan, thank you. This really helps. Ethan continued cooking silently. Eventually, Ethan and I began to eat dinner together. The seasoning in Ethan's cooking was quite strong, with a heavy use of ham and sausage. It's so salty, I thought, but I didn't say anything and ate with gratitude for Ethan's effort. It was a meal Ethan had worked hard on, and I didn't want to hurt his feelings by complaining. This is good, thank you. I said this, and Ethan, looking down, nodded slightly and continued to eat quietly. Ethan is a high school student who sweats a lot, so maybe he prefers his food this salty. Ethan, you must be busy too, so you don't have to go out of your way to make meals. I'll quickly whip something up when I get back from work. Okay. We continued such conversations while finishing our meal. As we relaxed on the sofa, Ethan's mobile phone rang. It's Dad, Ethan said, putting the phone to his ear and hastily heading to his room. I was a bit surprised since I expected Ethan to take the call in the living room. Being a high school student, maybe Ethan feels embarrassed about me hearing his conversations with Dad. Thinking this, I stood up to start washing the dishes. Still, why would Liam call Ethan from his business trip? Washing the dishes, I became increasingly curious. I turned off the tap, dried my hands, and quietly approached Ethan's room. I could hear the conversation through the door. Trying not to make any noise, I cracked open the door a bit. Ethan was standing in the middle of the room, back to the door, talking. The volume was loud enough for me to hear Liam's voice through the phone. I froze in shock upon hearing Liam's words. Isn't Sophia supposed to be at work late today? Is she already home? Then Liam's voice came again. Keep making meals with a lot of salt, all right? Ethan listened silently. Use a lot of ham and sausage because they're high in salt. I used them today because there were plenty in the fridge. Ethan replied in a small, reluctant voice. That's good. It will gradually worsen Sophia's illness. What? I was terrified. Stunned, I heard more unbelievable words. Mix some medication into Sophia's meals. Ethan remained silent. The medication is in the largest drawer of your study desk. Crush it into a fine powder so it's undetectable, and mix it into her meals. Liam ordered Ethan in a demanding tone. Start today. We've already finished dinner today. Ethan's voice was on the verge of tears. Then, start with breakfast tomorrow, got it? But, Ethan's voice was muffled, his back hunched. Can't you follow your dad's orders? If not, I'll take away your mobile phone and kick you out of the house. Are you okay with becoming homeless? Liam shouted this at Ethan and seemed to hang up the phone. Ethan sighed heavily and sat down on the spot. Then, he opened the drawer of his study desk. Inside, there were boxes that looked like medication in abundance. Ethan looked at them for a while, but then slammed the drawer shut and lay down on the spot. I quietly left the room and sat on the living room sofa, careful not to alert Ethan. There was no message from Liam on my mobile phone. Recalling the conversation, I felt terrified. Then, I heard Ethan's footsteps as he returned from his room to the living room. I quickly turned on the TV and pretended to be focused on it. Ethan's face was pale, his lips colorless, and he wouldn't look up at me. Liam calling is unusual, isn't it? I said to Ethan. Yeah. Ethan sat down away from me, still holding his mobile phone. Seeing Ethan looking distressed and silent, I felt unbearable. Hey Ethan, want to play a card game? What? Since it's just the two of us tonight, let's play some card games for fun. Ethan was just bewildered. He didn't know a single rule of any card game. Hearing this, I realized. Ethan probably never experienced family time. Everyone has at least once played card games or similar with their family. But Ethan had no such memories. Upon asking, Ethan had never played any board games either. I couldn't help but feel sympathy for Ethan's life so far. No childlike memories, yet he had skills in cooking and cleaning. That night, I taught Ethan the rules and we played card games. Ethan's stiff expression gradually turned into smiles, and he began to get absorbed in the game. Thus, Ethan and I played together late into the night. Before going to bed, I kept thinking about what Liam had said over the phone. Knowing Liam's terrifying side, I couldn't sleep due to anxiety. But since I had overheard Ethan and Liam's conversation, there was nothing I could immediately do. My mind in a state of panic, I spent the night almost sleepless. The next morning, when I woke up, Ethan was already in the living room. Tears were in his eyes. Sorry, Mom. Actually, For the first time, Ethan called me Mom. In Ethan's outstretched right hand was a box of medication. Dad gave this to me. He said to mix it into Mom's meals. Ethan said, crying. But I don't want to do this. Ethan broke down in tears and sat on the floor. I took the box of medication from Ethan and looked at the description on the back. It was a medication for low blood pressure. In fact, I have quite high blood pressure. I've been warned by a doctor to be careful. Liam should know about my condition. Yet, he was trying to make me take medication that would raise my blood pressure. According to Ethan, he had been instructed to use ingredients high in salt to increase my blood pressure. He was ordered to use ham, sausage, bacon instead of meat. Unbelievable. I was astounded. Thinking back, my recent poor health could be due to excessive salt intake. I'm sorry, really sorry. Ethan apologized to me repeatedly. I felt terribly sorry for Ethan, who had been forced into such a dreadful situation. At the same time, anger towards Liam welled up inside me. I called Liam's company. I tried to find out where he was staying. However, a colleague of Liam's gave me a surprising answer. Liam is supposed to be on vacation for a family trip, he said, sounding puzzled. I didn't pursue it further, made an excuse, thanked him, and hung up quickly. Was the business trip a lie? Then, he might be staying overnight with someone else. Eventually, Liam returned home from his supposed business trip. Welcome back. I greeted Liam at the entrance. Was it tough? Sort of. He answered, looking down. What kind of work did you do? I asked him about his trip in detail. Liam answered reluctantly, looking annoyed. Then he escaped to take a shower. I opened Liam's bag. Inside, I found 2 amusement park tickets. When Liam came out of the shower, I showed him the tickets. What's this? Liam's face suddenly turned frantic, and he started to get angry at me. Hey! Did you open my bag without permission? I was about to do laundry and thought I'd wash yours too, I said, and Liam, unable to retort, sat on the sofa, drying his wet hair with a towel. Who did you go to the amusement park with during your business trip? A client, Liam answered with a troubled look. What kind of person? What do you mean? A man. How old? I persisted. The same age as me, Liam answered in a low voice. So, 2 men went to the amusement park? When I laughed and retorted, Liam looked uncomfortable. Did the 2 of you eat ice cream and churros? What about the Ferris wheel? Did you ride the roller coaster? Did you have fun? I bombarded Liam with questions, cornering him. Then, Liam escaped to the bathroom as if running away from me. As soon as I realized the business trip was a lie, I had hired a detective to investigate Liam. Soon after, I was shocked to learn from the detective that Liam was having an affair. His mistress, Scarlett, was the president of a company and, like me, had a history of divorce. According to the detective, Liam met Scarlett through dating apps. Liam had visited Scarlett's high-rise condominium several times. For the 3 days he lied about being on a business trip, it seems Scarlett paid for a stay in a luxury hotel. They went to an amusement park nearby and enjoyed themselves before returning. When the detective showed me photos of Liam and Scarlett, the couple was hugging each other the whole time and stood out. An amusement park staff member testified. Liam targeted me because I owned an apartment and had a decent amount of savings. However, after our marriage, he met Scarlett, who was wealthier than me. Liam, finding me unnecessary, attempted to worsen my health by giving me medication to raise my blood pressure and feeding me meals high in salt. And he didn't do it himself, he coerced Ethan, still a child, into doing it. If I fell ill and was hospitalized, it turns out I'm not compatible with Sophia, who is much older. I want to break up. That seemed to be his plan. A detective nearby overheard Liam boasting to a friend at a pub. It's easy to deceive older women. A little praise and they're delighted. Plus, a woman with more money than me is convenient. She provides housing, and most of all, she has an inferiority complex about being older than me, making her easy to exploit. The detective recorded Liam's conversation with his friend nearby. Hearing that recording, I was devastated. At the same time, I began to think of a way to get revenge on Liam. One day, I ambushed Liam in front of his company. Liam walked a bit from his company to meet Scarlett, and they headed to a restaurant. Scarlett, being a president, was well-dressed and looked younger than her age. Just before Liam and Scarlett entered the restaurant, I approached them. Liam. Sophia? Liam froze in surprise upon seeing me. Pleased to meet you, I'm his wife, Sophia. As I greeted Scarlett, she too was lost for words in shock. I know about the affair between you two, I said loudly, causing passers-by to turn their attention to Liam and Scarlett in surprise. Both of them looked awkward and embarrassed. The business trip was a lie, and I know everything about the 2 of you going to the hotel. As I said this, Sophia, why? Liam whispered. Liam was shocked that I knew everything. Scarlett, it's odd for me to say this, but you shouldn't be used by a man like him. Used? Scarlett furrowed her brows. I took out my mobile phone and played the recording. It's easy to deceive older women. Just praise them a little, and they're overjoyed. Plus, a woman with more money than me is convenient. She provides housing, and most importantly, she feels inferior because she's older than me, making her easy to exploit. Liam's voice filled the air loudly. Hearing this, Liam was stunned. And Scarlett gaped at Liam. Scarlett, this is who Liam truly is. You may be the other woman and an enemy to me, but as a fellow woman, I advise you not to be used by Liam any longer. Scarlett turned her anger towards Liam. Liam, you said I was the ideal, perfect woman you've always dreamed of. Hearing this, I said with a cold expression. He told me the exact same thing. Liam, getting sharp looks from both Scarlett and me, was shaken. And may I also add, if Liam meets a woman wealthier than you, you'll be the one getting medicated. Medicated? Yes. I have high blood pressure, but Liam bought medication that raises blood pressure for people with low pressure and ordered his son to mix it into my meals. As I said this, Liam was dumbfounded. He probably didn't expect me to know this much. Scarlett furiously said to Liam. What is that? How terrifying. Are you really such a person? You're the worst. In the crowded street, Scarlett berated Liam, who hung his head in shame and remained silent. I'm breaking up with you. Don't ever show yourself to me again. With that, Scarlett walked away from us. Back home, I took Liam in front of Ethan and made him apologize. Apologize to Ethan for everything you've done. I'm sorry. That's not enough. Apologize properly. I sincerely apologize. Liam said loudly. Ethan looked bewildered. Tricking women for money and forcing Ethan to mix medication into their meals? Do you realize how much pain you've caused Ethan? I scolded Liam. Liam, you're a disgrace as a father. Making Ethan do all the household chores and using him. Then Ethan, who had been silent until now, followed up by saying, I'm not like Dad. I don't want to be like him. I don't want to follow his orders. Ethan yelled at Liam with tears in his eyes, expressing his anger. Liam hung his head in shame. For the first time, Ethan had fought back Liam. Well done. And I hugged his shoulder. The day after Liam went to work, I left the house a little later. I had informed my workplace that I would be taking a day off. My destination was Liam's workplace. Good day, I'm Liam's wife. Liam was taken aback and stood up in a hurry as I suddenly arrived at his workplace. Recently, Liam took 3 days off claiming it was for a family trip. Actually, that was a lie. As I said this, all of Liam's colleagues turned their attention to me. He told his family he was on a business trip, but he actually went on a trip with his mistress. The room buzzed with murmurs and then grew noisy. Liam wanted me out of the way because he had a mistress, so he ordered our son to mix medication that raises blood pressure into my food. He planned to make my high blood pressure worsen so I'd be hospitalized, and then he would divorce me to marry his mistress. As I spoke, Liam's colleagues looked horrified. Today, my son will also testify. Ethan. I called, and Ethan appeared in the office. It happened to be a school holiday for Ethan. I had asked Ethan to come with me. I was ordered by Dad to mix this medication into Mom's food. Ethan said, lifting a large amount of medication to show everyone. Screams erupted in the office. Liam's colleague said, Liam was such a person? The worst. Poor wife and son. They criticized Liam unanimously. Liam, too embarrassed to lift his head, looked down at the ground. Employing such a person could reflect badly on this company. I declared, took the boxes of medication from Ethan, and stacked them all on Liam's desk. Soon, a large pile of medication boxes was built on Liam's desk. Liam watched silently, his face pale. All right then, we'll be leaving now. Ethan and I headed towards the office exit. Left behind, Liam faced everyone's stares, sweating profusely and looking down. I reported Liam to the police and the child welfare services. After discussions, it was decided that it would be dangerous for Ethan to continue living with Liam. With the help of a detective, I tracked down Liam's ex-wife, Olivia. Upon meeting her, she revealed that their divorce was not due to her but because of Liam's infidelity. Liam had forcibly taken Ethan and strictly prohibited any contact between Ethan and Olivia. Olivia, threatened by Liam, had lived without seeing Ethan until now. I'm still single and have been working and living independently. I want to take Ethan and raise him from now on, she insisted. Ethan also wished for this, so it was decided that Ethan would live with Olivia. I divorced Liam and claimed compensation in the divorce proceedings. Liam was fired from his job, but he had the obligation to pay the compensation and child support for Ethan, quickly depleting his savings. Struggling to find a new job, Liam ended up working at a construction site. Now, looking haggard from unfamiliar labor, he appears much older than his actual age, which is 40. With his current appearance, it's unlikely that any older woman would be swayed by his sweet talk. Without any disposable income, Liam lives a life devoid of pleasure or hope. After the divorce, I started living alone again. Focusing on my work, I also decided to participate in volunteer work. My interaction with Ethan inspired me to engage in activities that could help children. I started working as a staff member for a program that helps children with their studies. The children I met there look forward to studying and having meals together once a week. Some of them can't afford tutoring due to family circumstances, or come home to an empty house. I continue my efforts, hoping to be of some help to these children. Ethan occasionally sends me texts. He has shared that he feels more secure living with Olivia than when he was with Liam. I plan to go to college, even if it means taking out student loans. Once I'm a college student, I'd like to join that volunteer program too. And thank you for teaching me the rules of card games. Ethan sent me this heartwarming text. I live my days earnestly, looking forward to the day I can work alongside Ethan in our activities.